WWL Louisiana News at 5 begins with breaking news.
We are following some major breaking news out of New Orleans City Hall tonight that could impact thousands of city workers.
Well, the council is already trying to figure out how to plug a massive hole in the city's finances. Now a new cash flow issue could be tied to something far bigger than just a local budget problem.
We begin our team coverage tonight with Amelia Strahan. She brings us the latest. So Amelia, bring us up to date.
Yeah, like you said, we're told this could affect thousands of city employees. And we just got done talking to Budget Chair Joe DeRusso, and he says they're still trying to figure out exactly how the city got into this situation, but they do believe the government shutdown plays a major role. Here's why. New Orleans is still receiving federal dollars that go to fund Katrina projects across the city. Now, as the council member explained, the city has to front the bill, then they're reimbursed. He says when the government shut down, those federal funds stopped coming. DeRusso says the council is considering requesting a $100 million line of credit, and tomorrow they're asking the Cantrell administration for answers.
I think it's two things. Number one is when you're asking for $100 million, that's on top of the $160 million, you have to have a public explanation of how we got here. And then number two, look, I don't know the whole set of circumstances, so I don't want to prejudge, but it's also a lesson in how do we get better at doing things too. So I think we want to make sure we have a firm handle on both.
Now, there is still a lot that we don't know about this situation. These city employees could go without pay, or they may be able to solve the problem. We're still looking for those answers, and all of this comes as the city is already facing a $100 million deficit. Reporting live from City Hall, Amelia Strahan, WWL Louisiana.
All right, thanks so much for the latest on this, Amelia. We appreciate that.
Our WWL political analyst Clancy Dubos joining us now in studio to talk more about what this budget deficit could mean for the city's funds, or FEMA funds. Clancy, I know the council certainly has to have some feelings about the timing of this announcement.
Yes, you know, this congressional shutdown, or this government shutdown, because Congress is deadlocked, as well as the administration and the Democrats in Congress, it's 3 weeks old now. It goes to show, first of all, that what happens in Washington doesn't just stay in Washington. So much of what we hear on national news is about infighting and political bashing back and forth in Congress. But here's an example of how Congress's inaction really hits home, because New Orleans cannot be alone in this. There are cities and states all over the country who get approval from FEMA to do projects, but all of these FEMA approvals are reimbursement oriented. That is, the local governments and the states have to front the money, do the projects, then FEMA has to check it, make sure it's done right, then they get reimbursed. That takes time. And when the wheels of government come to a grinding halt and FEMA is not even looking at reimbursements, we end up with a situation like this. But this was foreseeable, and I think DeRusso was being kind of diplomatic. I think the council members all feel, or most of them feel, that the mayor should have given them a heads up maybe a week or 2 weeks ago even, that, you know, this shutdown is not just going to be a 2 or 3 day standoff as previous shutdowns have been. This is something that they're digging in their heels for the long haul, and these repercussions were, I think, foreseeable.
Clancy, this has been a problem since Hurricane Katrina, and some would say that those reimbursement funds have been almost an Achilles heel for our recovery, which this demonstrates is still going on. Are you surprised that we're looking at the dollar figure here that we're anticipating for these reimbursements? Like, how do you get to the end of the year and have, you know, double digit in the millions waiting to be reimbursed?
Well, we're in this situation not just because we're at the end of the year, but because we're at the end of this year. That is the last year of LaToya Cantrell's tenure in office. If you've driven anywhere in New Orleans, you're seeing all kinds of street work and drainage work and all kinds of infrastructure work, which is great, but it shows that the mayor is spending this money all of a sudden when for years it was not being spent. Now, because we're about to hit a FEMA deadline that if we don't spend it, we lose the grant, we lose the reimbursements, even eligibility for reimbursements. Everything's happening at once. So all this city money had to suddenly outflow to pay contractors for the work as it progresses. And now the city can't get reimbursed because of the shutdown. So it's a confluence of several things, but it's also an example of how, you know, I think the Stafford Act, which is what forms the basis of FEMA programs and FEMA recovery dollars and reimbursements, that Stafford Act needs to be overhauled in a big way. And it needs to be, something needs to happen where cities and states, because I think New Orleans is not alone right
Yeah.
now in this position. But we're probably deeper in the hole than many cities because of the mayor's at the end of her term and she's trying to spend it all before she leaves office, or commit it all. That act needs to be revisited.
All right, Clancy, thank you so much for that update. When you mentioned the mayor being at the end of her term, we believe that this could become a defining, really early test for Helena Moreno as she begins her term next year. Thanks, Clancy.